Hello and welcome to Cloud on Air, live webinars for Google Cloud. My name is Soleil Kelly, and I'm a product marketer on Google Cloud, specifically focused on data visualization and business intelligence. And joining me is?
I'm Dave Olson, a product manager on Google Data Studio.
Right. Keep in mind you can ask questions at any time throughout this presentation. We have some Googlers on standby to answer them, and we'll have a live Q&A at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. So today, I'm very excited to be talking about data and specifically how we're communicating with data and how that's really changed over time. I mean, data is so much more embedded in our day-to-day lives and woven into the fabric of our conversations. And it's really, it's just interesting how it's changed so much over time. And this is not just internally throughout business in organizations, but externally to public audiences online. It's interesting times. And then, of course, this wouldn't be complete if we didn't actually build a demo, so we're going to also create a demo here on screen for everybody. Okay. So long before we had these incredible devices in our hands, we were, we're pulling insights from all kinds of places. I mean, I'm looking at this photograph of a campfire in the Pacific Northwest and thinking about just way back when, to find insights, if you were, say, a fisherman, you would take stock of your day's catch. You would weave in stories that were passed over the generations across that campfire to create some insights that you might use to figure out what you're going to do in your very next day. Fast forwarding to technology today and where we're at, all these incredible innovations have made it so easy for us to be able to take data from disparate places and weave them together into these really compelling stories. So a single person might be taking and mashing data from NOAA weather data and boat traffic and potentially some aquatic survey data and creating this compelling story online, sharing it out. Maybe it's a story about sustainability. So really, the way in which we can tell these stories online has just dramatically changed. And it's super exciting. To do this, like even 5 or 10 years ago, it used to take a lot of people to actually create these stories. Today we know it can be done much more single-handedly, but again, 10 years ago, you would need IT, you would need data scientists potentially, some really hardcore analysts, maybe some developers for the front end, even designers to stand up this story and to be able to push that out online. And that doesn't even mean maintaining it. To do that, you would need a lot of resources like time, you would need a lot of budget to do that as well. And that becomes really challenging. Today, we've introduced a product a couple years ago. It's called Data Studio, again, which Dave is a product manager for. Can you pass the slide there? And it's really a product that is, it's a free product. It's really designed for people who analyze and work with data every day, who are analyzing and communicating that data out. Designed from the ground up to really make it super easy to visualize, to work with the data, and also to share that out. It's completely serverless and scalable across Google's entire infrastructure, so that makes it really easy for you to focus on the things that matter most to you, which is telling stories. And so what we've really done with Data Studio is simplify that whole process in the workflow. So if you think about accessing and connecting to your data, that process of analyzing it, visualizing it, and sharing that out, we've really simplified that process. And so if we think about the data sources, I mean, that's one of the most common scenarios that people are asking about is, how do I connect to this data or that data? And you can see on the screen so many different sources on, both from the Google side, like if you have your data stored in places like BigQuery or GCS, to even other places like your ad performance data, tons of different first-party Google data, as well as a ton of sources available from our fast-growing community of data connections. So over 300 sources, everything from Reddit to Salesforce to Facebook and many other companies. Developers are building these connections to new sources, and that really means that you have a lot more access to the data that you care about and what you want to be able to tell in your story. Also worth mentioning on this is the access that you have. Within BigQuery, we have all of these public data sets that you can use to be able to weave into your own stories or to be able to create new insights, as well as there are commercial data sets that you can license as well. And once you're all said and done, you've built this story and you found those insights, it's super easy to be able to share that out to your audiences and your stakeholders, either just a link to a report, if that might be internally. If you want to keep your data protected and just share that link internally, and nobody else would have access to it, or as an iframe embedded in your blog or your website, something like that. So I mentioned we're going to build a demo today. And so, of course, we will be doing that. And just setting a little bit of context for this demo. This is a particular story about a marketing team's success drafted by the team lead. Her name is Maya, and she works at a company called Foo Hardware. She wanted to send out a pre-read ahead of a quarterly all hands. And so just a simple scenario of like, hey, I really want to motivate people to get to this quarterly all hands because attendance has been really low. She wanted everybody to see the success of a couple of programs that her team had been running, and specifically because it had broad implications around an opportunity for Foo Hardware. She leads marketing programs for all West Coast departments of Foo. And despite being traditional brick and mortar, they stay pretty current with new technologies. One of their analysts recently brought in a bunch of data into BigQuery. Maya had heard of it. She wasn't too familiar with it. She spends most of her time in their CRM focusing on their customers and whatnot. So this is the story that Maya actually sent out. This was in the form of a link. Again, this is an internal story, so this is not something, this is the Foo Hardware's data they want to protect. They're not going to be broadcasting this out online for everybody to see. So this is really an internal story that she's sharing here directly within Google Studio. And so again, she starts her story with just those key metrics that she knows everybody wants to see. Everything is going great. And she invites people to go dive in and take a look at the actual data itself. So here first she builds a very, sort of an overview, a very basic dashboard of company health, looking at the past year, departmental revenues, a couple of scorecards for profit and profit margin, and time series of how revenue is done over the last year. And again, this is interactive, so people could be in here and playing with the date controls and whatnot if they wanted to. So to her audience, she's taking them down this path. She's telling a story because, again, she wants to get them to this quarterly all hands. So everything's looking good, right? But did you know Foo is sitting on this massive opportunity? Let's take a look at another slice of the data, looking at our top 5 states. So she creates a stack bar looking at revenue across the past year, broken by month, for these top 5 states. And she also included a couple filters so people, in other departments. Again, she leads departments on the West Coast territory, but if other folks wanted to kind of drill in and see their own data, they could do that. And here again, guiding them down the path. So what specific opportunity am I trying to find here as the consumer of the story? Paint me a picture. Tell me what's going on. So here she then lays out, hey, our team piloted this marketing initiative in the spring, specifically around paint, across all the geographies in California. So let's take a look at those specific results. And so here she drills into just specific paint. She added a filter for this report just to see the revenues for paint, and you can see very well that in that springtime, revenue was flying high. So it was doing really, really well. People might have questions, well, is this repeatable? And she anticipates that and takes them down this path again. So they're also running this program in appliances at the same time. So here she's showing those results that, hey, this is working in appliances too. And that's fantastic. So as the audience, she knows they have a lot of questions. So she wants, again, to bring them to the quarterly all hands where her team can share the successes and really dive into the details of how they achieve that and how they can unlock this opportunity for Foo Hardware. So again, real basic story. And that's our story, completely built in Data Studio. And next, Dave is going to help us walk through how Maya built this experience.
Great, thanks, Eli. So I'll show how we helped Maya build this great experience in Data Studio. So this is the Data Studio homepage, and there's reports. These are a list of all the reports that I have, and then data sources. And data sources are just connections to my underlying data. So I come over here on the left, I click on data sources. These are my existing data sources, but I want to create a new data source. And so like Soleil mentioned, we have connectors to many different data. So we have Google performance, ads performance connectors, like AdWords, YouTube, Google Analytics. We have cloud connectors like Google Cloud Storage, BigQuery, Cloud SQL. And then we also have more third-party connectors where users can come in and actually build their own connectors to any data around the web. So if the question is do you connect to X, the answer is usually yes. So for the purpose of this demo, we'll connect to BigQuery. Like Saleh mentioned, we have public data sets. So I can come in here and I can enrich my data and my reports with all the public data sets that are available in BigQuery. But for this demo, we have our retail data, our test retail data. So I select through there, and then I just click Connect. And so what we're doing right now is we're making an underlying a connection to the underlying data, and then now we have all the fields and the schema of these fields. So what we've done here is we've looked and we have auto-typed these fields. So we know, for instance, that month is a month, due, this is a YYY MMDD date. And we also can come in here and override some of these. Like, so for year month, we didn't quite get this one, so we'll change this to year month. And now once we've done these fixes in the data source, we come here and we create a report. So we add our data source to the report. And now we can just start drawing. We click on the time series, drag it across the page. And just like that, we start visualizing data. So for here, we want to look at year month. We'll just recreate the demo that Maya made. Year month, and then I search for revenue. I pull in revenue here. And now I'm looking at my revenue over the last 2 years. And actually, we can adjust the page size here so that it's the same size. I think it was 800 by 400. So that's a nice slide size. We'll move this up, make this a little smaller. That's great. And then I can start adding controls onto this page. So I can stick a date range on here and select a default date range. We'll look at last year for 2017 data only. And then when I do operations on this date control or any filter controls that I put on the page, they automatically apply to all the components on the page. So there's no special bindings that I have to configure out of the box. If I want to group these together, I can just select them and group them together so they only apply to these specific visualizations. So now let's keep going. We can recreate. We'll stick a scorecard on here for revenue. Great. I should style this so I can come in here and click on the chip, change the format from number to a currency. So these are US dollars, and let's clean these up, make these compact numbers. Awesome. And then we want to look at this compared to the previous period. And we've invested a lot in making the dates, a lot of different date functionality, and the dates very easy to use. So for here, I can just do last year. I can compare this to the previous period. So now for any filter range that I apply to this page, we will look at that for the previous period. So if I want to look at 1 week's worth of data, we'll look at that same week for the prior year, or last quarter's worth of data, we'll look at Q4 for last year as well automatically. So here I can go, I've got revenue. Let's put a couple more. We'll change this one to cost. Great, I've got costs, and then we have another one down here for profit. Profit dollars, awesome. We'll move this one up. And then, so now I want to create a field for profit margin, which is just profit dollars divided by revenue. So for here, I can create new fields within the data source. So I come in here and I say profit, we'll call this profit percent. And then this is just profit dollars divided by revenue. And there's a lot of different calculations that we can make in here. We can use case statements for grouping. We can create hyperlinks inside of tables. We can concat fields together. There's a lot of different functionality that we support within this formula builder. So here, I create the field. Awesome, I've got a new profit percentage. It shows up immediately here. I'll copy paste this. Pull this over profit percentage. Now I want to show this as a percentage. So I just come in here for the type. I change the type to percent. Great. So So now, also this one, if I recall correctly, this was actually below. So we'll move this down. And then we'll create a bar chart here. See here, we can change this to department. And then this to revenue. Oops. And I'll change this to a horizontal bar chart. All right. So now I need a little, I can change the margin here so that we can see all of the labels. And now I need a little help because I don't actually have the header. So maybe my colleague Soleil in a different department actually has all the right marketing. So now what's really cool is this is all built on top of Google Drive. So the same technology that allows users to collaborate on other products like Google Sheets or Google Docs, you can collaborate inside of Data Studio using that same technology. So I come in here to share the report, and I'll share it with soleil.demos.
Have I spelled that correctly?
Soleil.demos@gmail.com. Please help with the brand logos. So now Soleil is getting an email notification in his box, letting him know that he can come in and actually collaborate on this report with me. So Soleil, can you go ahead and click on that?
Yeah, let's go ahead and open that up. Is it untitled?
Yeah, untitled report. Nope. Looks like we're having a slight issue. I'll just keep going on here. So now I'll come back here and I'll just grab the marketing from the top myself. Great, I can grab this image, whoops, right here, and then the white background here. And then just like you can in any other design, you can send this to the back. Pull this up to the top. And I'll add a text field. This is Foo Hardware revenue. Or Foo Hardware metrics. So now I've created this first slide on here showing exactly what Maya has done. And now it's really easy to add, let's just add a title here, Foo Hardware. Now it's really easy to add the rest of the pages as well. So I can add a new page. Let's title this page, rename metrics overview. And then page 2 we'll show, let's see if I can remember. We'll show the top 5 states by top 5 states department revenue breakdown. So I will actually, I can come back here in the metrics overview. I can make all of these elements report level. So now these persist across all the pages in my report, so I don't have to recreate them every time. So great, I have this Foo Hardware metrics. I draw a bar chart. I want to look at our year month. Year month broken down by department. And we'll look at this by revenue. We'll only look at the top 5. And we can switch this to a horizontal. And it looks like the date range is a little bit too long, so we'll add another date range control here. Excellent. and make this set to last year. Actually, we can just make this report level. So we can go back to our first page, make this a report level, make report level, and now this persists across both pages. And I have my filters here, and I should stack these bars up. Oh, looks like Soleil's on here. So Soleil, can you go to page 2 here, and can you change the title for me on this page?
Yes, of course I can.
So now see, we see Soleil up here on the screen, and this red box here shows that Soleil is actually editing this in real time. So this works not just if we're sitting, standing next to each other in a webinar, but this also works if we're on opposite sides of the world. We can collaborate and edit a report at the same time together. Now Soleil's fixing up this the bar chart together. So we'll go. I'll change the margin. Oh, moving it around. I'll go work on the next page while Soleil finishes this up.
Great.
Cool. So now, actually, we'll just make a copy of this page, the top 5 states. So I will come back here. I'll duplicate this one. Copy of page 2. Whoops. Copied the wrong page. All right, so now I've got this and we want to look at this. Let's order this by year, month. We'll do this year, month ascending. Or, there we go, great. And now I want to create a filter for this to look at the category by paint only. So now this isn't a filter control that I want to allow my users to switch around. So I create this filter at the report level. So we'll call this our paint filter, include category equal to, and we have lots of different operators that we can apply to filters. So contain starts with, we have regex, and then we can also create compound filters. So we have both ands and or filters that you can use to create very complex expressions. So equal to paint, and we'll save this. So now we're looking at this paint. This is paint only. Let's break this actually down by state. So as you can see, when I make a mistake, it's very easy to go and change it back to get the right view of data that I want to see. So now Soleil is editing the title there. I'm putting a, oops, I want not a text, but a box, a rectangle to show here. I'll make this transparent. I'll make a single weight line of black, and we'll make it dashed. Cool. And then by holding on the Shift key, I can actually do very, very small adjustments. So now I've got my my box showing our awesome work right in here. And then I can say, look how well paint performed. Look how well paint performed. Awesome. So then, again, if I just want to do the same thing and show that this is actually replicable, I can duplicate this page again. I come down here, and then now it's not paint that I want to look at, but appliances in the window. So I create a new filter. So we'll call this one appliances, include category equal to appliances. I save this, remove the paint filter. Then I just move this down, get this aligned right. And awesome. Now I have my, look how well appliances performed. So now in just about 10 or 15 minutes, Soleil and I have recreated this, most of the demo, at least the data within the demo. And we've done this all securely, so we can go back here to the metrics overview. And now what's really cool, another feature that we have within Data Studio is the ability not just to share these. So I could come in here and I could share this report either with my executives, point-to-point sharing, or I could actually share this with a Google group. So let's say there was a metrics overview group at my company. I could share this with them and they would automatically have access to go in and look at this dashboard. And there's different levels of access that I can give them. So with Soleil, I gave him access to be able to edit so we could collaborate in real time on this report. But I also, just like a Google Sheet or a Google Doc, I can only give view access so that when people come in here, all they're able to do, they can't mess up my report. They can come in here and all they can do is interact with the filters that I've put on the page. But there's another distribution model that we have beyond just point-to-point sharing, where I can go in here and I can enable embedding of this report. So now, this is a private report, as Soleil mentioned. So we can embed this in our internal website so that people can come in on the wiki and be able to see what we've created from within our own site. So to do that, I'll just quickly show how to do this on a Google site. So I'll grab this link. I'll come in here. This is my site's name, Foo Hardware's West Coast Marketing. This is what I show to my bosses when I want to get promoted. I come in here. I stick the embed link in here. I insert here. So this is our overview page. And so now I can also add a text box and say, check out how well paint did in the spring. And then I come back here. I go to page, let's see here.
Page 5.
Page 5. Great. I grab this embed URL. I embed this in here. And then this is my paint page. So what's really cool is I come in here to preview this data. So this is what it would look like to my stakeholders. And they would actually be able to come in here and interact with any filters that I put on the page. So not only is this a report that I can share with people, but this is actually a live interactive application that I can embed inside of my company's own wiki or blog. Come in here.
And if I made changes to the report over time too, by simply refreshing the page, those changes would be reflected here too.
Right, yeah, so we could actually look at this. Let's say we came here and we went to page 1. And I said, oh, I don't want to look at last year. I want to look at the year before, for instance. Or let's just say, I don't want to show this profit percentage, and I don't want to show this revenue. I just want to really want to keep the focus on, the revenue breakdown by department. And then I come back in here, and if I refresh this page and go into preview mode, now this report or this application actually that I've created has updated in real time to reflect the latest changes that I made on my report.
That's super cool. Thanks for walking through that demo, Dave.
Yeah, no problem.
I had a little, demo gods were not quite with us. I realized what was going on. I was in a different account instead of the Soleil.demos. In any case, really great application of being able to create these data stories and publish them internally or externally. Powerful tool that it can tell it really simplifies the process in just a few minutes. It's pretty straightforward to be able to create those stories and find whatever insights you want to share and send those out to folks. So obviously we encourage all of you to go try Data Studio itself as well. Again, it's a free product, so it's really easy to just click around and explore. Connect up to your own data if you'd like. You can import that, or you can connect to some of the public data sets in BigQuery. And we urge you all to go explore that. And with that, thank you so much. I just wanted to let you know, people have been asking some questions throughout this presentation in our live Q&A, and we'll be back in about less than a minute to answer some of those questions live. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back with that. Great, welcome back to our live Q&A portion of Cloud on Air at Google Cloud. Dave, we got a bunch of great questions from the audience. Our moderator has popped those into a slide for us to be able to see. We get a ton of great questions over time. This is actually a pretty common one as well. The first one, how do people join different data sets in Data Studio?
So right now, we don't have support for joins within Data Studio. This is something we're actively working on, so look for this in the near future. The workaround right now is to pump your data into BigQuery and do the join actually inside of BigQuery and then visualize that inside of Data Studio.
What would I need to be able to do within BigQuery to do that?
So just write a simple SQL join statement in BigQuery.
Great. How about viewing dashboards on mobile devices?
Yes, so you can view dashboards on mobile devices. You just have to scale them down because we offer a lot of flexibility in what you can put on the page. So obviously you can't have as much granularity on a mobile device. So what we've seen people do is scale down the number of controls that are on the page to be able to visualize and access that information on mobile.
That makes a ton of sense. And then again, using this internally, what access control features does Data Studio support for dashboards and also the underlying data? Like where does that data reside?
Right, so the underlying data always relies in the underlying data system, and there's multiple auth models that we support. So Data Studio is built on top of Google Drive. So just like you would share a sheet or a Google Doc, that's how you would share a Google Data Studio report.
Right.
Now, for the underlying data, there's different access models for connecting to the data using both owner's credentials and viewer's credentials. So if you set viewer's credentials on a data source, then everyone who has access, everyone who wants to render that data in a report will have to have access to the underlying data because they will be using their credentials to query the underlying system.
Makes sense. Cool, thank you. And then what about connecting to external data sources? We brought this up in the slide deck. Yeah, what is it?
Sure, yeah. So we connect to a lot of, this is a common question, we connect to a lot of Google data sources, Google Ads data and Google Cloud data. We also connect to on-prem data like MySQL and Postgres. And then we're growing an ecosystem to connect to all sorts of data around the web. So we have over 300 connections to different data sources around the web, and that's constantly growing. So if we don't have it, you actually can go and build it yourself. We've had our UX team, even like our director has built simple connectors and prototype connectors in under an hour.
Cool, that's great. And then talk a little bit more about how filters work and the different elements that you can filter by.
Sure, yeah, so we have multiple types of filters. So there's filters which I showed which are on the page, which you can have at the page level, at the report level, or you can even bind to specific elements. So I could say, I only want to filter this one graph by department, and then I want to compare it against my overall revenue in another chart. We also have filters that exist at the what we call the report level or the editor level. So the editor sets those, and these support regex, exclusion, in filters, greater than or less than operators for metric filters, and then we also have ands and ors. So there's a lot of flexibility in our filtering.
Great. And then finally, exporting to PDF. Yeah.
So
tell us more
you
about
can,
this.
you can this is a common request. There's single page export to PDF. If you are in Chrome, you can use the file print to print to PDF. And this is something that we're looking into for later this year.
Excellent. And that concludes our live Q&A portion. These were the top questions that were bubbled up in our throughout the presentation. So thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you stay tuned for the next section. It's called Building for Growth, the Future of Transactional Data Platforms and System. It's been a ton of fun here. Thanks, Dave, for doing all the demoing.
Thanks a lot.
And thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.